Good afternoon. I know this is the point at which we're usually ending our program. We thought it was incredibly important, obviously, to have the opportunity to share and hear from the governor this morning some of the wonderful things that are happening around the state and in this region. I am so thrilled to have all of you, our friends and our members and our partners here. For those of you who bear with us until the very end, in just a couple of moments, I promise you three things. One, I will tell you an embarrassing story about myself that most of you have never heard. Two, I will show you adorable pictures of my 2-year-old son. And three, I will try to tell you something that is important for where we are right now in our region's history. First of all, to Ben Baldanza, I just want to say thank you for coming to share your story. A local entrepreneur, a local boy made good. And through the narrative arc that he shared with us, we see a story that is directly relevant to our region today. One that flows logically from recognizing opportunity, sometimes creating opportunities from whole cloth, seizing on those opportunities in front of us, but always taking great care to build upon each and every one of those opportunities towards something better. What is opportunity? It's a circumstance, a chance, a potential, but it stops short of being a foregone conclusion. It's not a promise, it is not an entitlement, and it is not always immediately obvious. I know that it always hasn't been for me. So the year was 1981. I was 5 years old, and I was 3,741 miles from home. My father, a political science and economics professor, had accepted a position as a Fulbright scholar in Nancy, France. I don't remember the discussion leading up to the trip. I was vaguely aware that something was happening, something significant, but I don't recall being asked my opinion. It just happened. One day, I was a normal American kid living a normal American life, and the next, I was flying across the ocean, leaving the comforts and familiarity of friends and country behind. So there I was. I remember the day like it was yesterday. The moment that my parents dropped me off in the courtyard of the public school. We'd been in the country less than 2 weeks. I didn't speak a word of French, not enough to learn the way a normal kindergartner would, certainly not enough to fit in. So I watched with a mixture of fear and betrayal as the 8-foot green steel doors of the courtyard shut behind me and my parents quite literally abandoned me in a foreign country. They left me behind in the care of strangers who looked and dressed different, surrounded by a pack of circling children who collapsed on me all at once, pointing and laughing, staring, whispering in their foreign tongue. So I did what any self-respecting American boy would do in a similar circumstance. I waited for one of them to come close enough, and I punched him in the nose. True story. Enter the principal, my parents return, all is well with the world. Until, of course, the next day. I don't know how many times I repeated that cycle, but my father does. He told that story to every friend I ever made growing up, to every girlfriend I ever brought home, first laughing about the daily calls from the principal, and then recounting the stories, the slow development of language skills. My very first complete sentence in French that I came up with all on my own, "Tu veux que je te batte?" You want to fight? Also a true story. When the outraged principal told my father that I was no longer just physically lashing out, but now I was also verbally assaulting my classmates, I remember the slight look he gave me out of the corner of his eye. He smiled. He knew what I did not yet, that I was adapting. 32 years later, I can stand here and tell you that my time in Europe, 3 years total before the 6th grade, was one of the most important and formative moments of my life, and without a doubt, one of the most amazing opportunities I have ever had still to this day, giving me a chance to see 25 countries around the world before I was 12 years old. But on that first day, on the playground, I was just a scared kid. I was afraid of not fitting in, of not having friends, of failing. I was just afraid of change. Now, there's many lessons I take from those memories, perhaps the most obvious. Scared kids don't make the best decisions. Fear is a powerful paralytic. Change is inevitable and often disruptive. It's a lesson that happens every day in our businesses and our communities, and the most valuable tool that we have as humans, citizens, and leaders is our adaptability. But perhaps most importantly, I was blessed at an early age to learn that there is opportunity in adversity. When decades of economic and demographic forces buffeted this region, we could have quit on ourselves. Some surely did. Dead, dying, aging gracelessly. We all remember that chorus. Sprawl bled population, large employers opted out. Downtown was beset by a series of conditions so challenging that a flood of out-of-town speculators flocked to Syracuse to pick at the very bones of our city. But in those boarded storefronts, some people saw a chance at renewal. In the growing vacancy, developers and residents saw profit and livability, respectively. Our young professionals, our business community, institutions of higher education, our elected and civic leaders together embraced the idea and the notion that downtown Syracuse could again be an anchor for the economic revitalization of this entire region. And within a span of less than 20 years, the very heart of our city has gone from community scourge to the fastest growing neighborhood in the entire metropolitan area. We've seen nearly 2,000 residents flood downtown during that time, with another 450 units currently planned or under construction. We've seen billions in investment, and we've witnessed a new wave of commercial and retail growth in our downtown, with 25 new businesses opening their doors in the last 12 months alone. We have collectively, together, remade this city into one that was recently ranked as the 5th most exciting mid-sized city in America. All because we recognized the opportunity in an adverse set of circumstances. And we're doing it again by reorienting our economy to the global consumer, 95% of whom live outside of the US. Those consumers look and act different. They're driven by different patterns. They speak different languages and value different things. But with $14 trillion in net new wealth being created around the world between now and 2030, this rising global prosperity offers us our best chance to further economic opportunity here at home. For those businesses attuned to that shifting landscape, there is quite literally a world of opportunity out there. Sometimes, though, opportunity is less obvious. In 2004, a regional report on our economic performance shed some startling light on our entrepreneurial ecosystem. Central New York, a region with a once proud history of globally relevant innovation, ranked 112th out of 134 metropolitan areas in fostering the startup and growth of new companies. And a mere $27 per capita in seed and venture capital funding was available to support those few entrepreneurs that were trying to make it here, almost 30 times below the national average. So fast forward to today. The Tech Garden, which once struggled to find companies to incubate, has been full for 26 straight months. We have programs to support entrepreneurs at every stage, from ideation to commercialization and acceleration. We're home to one of 5 New York State designated innovation hotspots. And today we are announcing that a growing waiting list has triggered a decision to expand the Tech Garden footprint by taking an additional 18,000 square feet on the ground floor of AXA Tower 1. The growing technology campus in downtown Syracuse now serves more than 350 startup and emerging businesses across this region every year, and those are just the companies in our portfolio. To say nothing of the hundreds of new businesses and student ventures being launched by our partners at Syracuse University, Cornell, Clarkson, and beyond. Looking at the statistics and performance a decade ago, most smart investors stayed away. But a few, those in business, many of you in this room, and in higher education in particular, understood the power of this sector of the economy and its role in our long-term economic health, and they seeded it. And together, we have cultivated it for over a decade. We all know that exciting and dynamic companies attract investment, and the same is true for regions, which is why we celebrate the launch last week of Armory Square Ventures, the first new venture capital fund in upstate New York in more than a decade. In less than 1 year's time, the fund has closed on $15 million in commitments and is actively looking for companies to capitalize because the fund's investors see economic opportunity in this new wave of entrepreneurship in our region. You see, 40 years of economic and demographic circumstance created these opportunities for revival. New and sometimes unexpected collaborations led to surprising success, which only fueled further collaboration. No success we've achieved is unilateral. No failure or opportunity that we have missed has a singular antagonist. We have worked as a team and held true to a shared vision and a unanimity of purpose, and it has worked. So it's through that lens that we must look to the opportunities on the horizon. A quick Google search of the phrase U.S. municipalities in crisis returns a list of nearly 9.5 million results. There is not a single person in this room that has not heard the mayor's message of looming fiscal crisis. Our place as a community with the 7th highest property tax burden in the United States is well known. You heard the governor talk about it. And with 9 times the units of local government per capita than the national average and a host of mandated costs, the sources of our condition are clear. And yet for all of the glaring indicators, we have a mixed record of success at adapting our model of service and delivery to the changing circumstances of the 21st century. Our mayor and county executive have crossed party lines time and time again to modernize by co-locating economic development, consolidating, purchasing, and planning, and more. Yet on the eve of a referendum to share services between East Syracuse and DeWitt, a move that would save the average taxpayer $550, the outcome of that vote remains uncertain. We all sit here knowing that our current structure of government is not sustainable, and yet we are reminded time and time again of how hard it is to change. Together with Syracuse 2020, CenterState CEO is working with our local elected officials at all levels, and the civic, business, and labor leaders. The Consensus Commission on Government Modernization represents the most sweeping effort to date to reimagine government in Onondaga County. But our circumstance demands far more than study. This is an opportunity we must seize. It's not just a chance to be more effective and efficient, but to go back to what Ben said, it's a chance to differentiate ourselves from communities facing the same choices by doing something they have not, by doing what's hard, by embracing a reputation as a place that is willing to undertake the most honest of civic self-examinations and acting decisively with an eye towards the future. Finally, there is the opportunity that is Interstate 81. The highway serves as a primary means of transportation connectivity for this region, while dividing it in half. For more than 50 years, the elevated interstate has physically bifurcated our landscape, depressing certain property values in the city while undoubtedly enhancing others. The debate over the interstate has also emotionally polarized this community and become a noticeable fissure in that collaborative atmosphere that has been a foundation for our region's recent successes. Some business owners and leaders are afraid of what any change might mean, and others are afraid of being saddled with a status quo that they view as disadvantageous for them and for the region. None of these stakeholders are wrong. Change is scary, fear is natural, but so is our human instinct to hope for and craft a better tomorrow. In the coming weeks, the State Department of Transportation will begin to release new data designed to inform this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When all is said and done, more than $1 billion will likely be spent constructing an alternative to what we have today. That solution must be a billion-dollar monument to our creativity, to our vision, and to our aspiration as a community. We must take care to hear and acknowledge each other's concerns, but above all, we must build on our region's reputation as a place that's on the rise. In his autobiography, A Long Walk to Freedom, the late Nelson Mandela offered a reflection relevant to us today. "I've discovered the secret," he wrote, "that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I have taken a moment here to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vista that surrounds me, to look back on the distance I have come. But I can rest only for a moment." Together, all of this in this room and throughout the community, we have achieved great things in recent years. And our success has given us the opportunity for even more success. But that future isn't guaranteed. In the last few months, in conversations with members and friends, leaders, and passive observers alike, there is one question that comes up more than any other. What's happening to our partnerships, to our shared vision, to collaboration? Has it been weakened? And what impact will that have on our ability to seize these collective opportunities before us? It's a question without an easy answer. Does it seem harder today than it has been in recent years? Yes. Is there tension? Yes. Is there a temptation sometimes to take sides? Sometimes there is. But perspective is key. Through a magnifying glass, even the smoothest surface looks bumpy. But when we stand on the top of that hill and we look out over the next mountain, the one we want to climb, even the bumpiest road falls smoothly into the distance. Now, every day I go home to this. And that perspective, which can sometimes feel elusive, snaps back into focus. Even the hardest things and the most complicated things become simple. And I am transported personally back to Nancy, France, 3,741 miles from here, looking through my father's eyes and smiling as my wife and I work to give Ben the same opportunities or better that we had as children. That is a basic vision that unites us. We are, after all, a community, a group of friends and colleagues, peers, yes, sometimes competitors, but even then, still neighbors. And even when we disagree, which is inevitable, we all share a vested interest in this place, in our future, and in each other. We have been, are, and must remain a team if we are going to seize these opportunities in front of us. And there's nothing complicated about that. Thank you all for your patience and indulging us today. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day.